is, the more significant the service gap, the more harm the person is going to encounter based on what they're going through. I'm not saying that's always the case, but it seems logical.
Thank you. Apple?
I can see your logic, Brett, that they do sort of flow one to the other, or they're correlative. I don't want to lose emphasis on the word harm. I don't need harm reduction as a two-word clause in this statement, because I know that it is wrought with various perceptions, and it doesn't need to be in the mission as such. But I do think that the sentence above gets at what reducing harm is all meant for, which is to reduce or eliminate stigma, put money in prevention, change the cultural milieu around how we associate and attend to folks who are struggling. And I don't want that to get lost, but I mean, this is an evolving conversation, and I don't think it's completely lost by taking the two words harm and reduction out of the phrase, because I think it is what it's meant to cover is found elsewhere.
It's implicit in it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if I were to ask you right now, is this something I could send out to everyone as a potential final statement? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Brian, I want to give you a chance to.
Oh, I guess I was just thinking, I'm totally fine with taking the harm reduction out. I think Apple's point is well received and that it's encapsulated in the earlier section. No, I was just looking at if there's a way to maybe even like clean it up and make it a little more concise if possible. It does not have to be this way, but I was wondering about if we do want the emphasis on focusing on reducing service gaps, then great, at the end makes sense. But if it feels like it's just as well a part of the initial list of things there, reduce stigma, enhance prevention, treatment, and recovery service, if reducing service gaps ought to go in that long list, it might flow a little nicer, but I'm not necessarily a wordsmith. It was just a thought. And if everyone's ready to be done, I can also put my thumbs up. It's totally
Enhance
fine.
prevention, treatment, recovery, and recovery service gaps. Is that what we're saying?
Maybe just service gaps. I don't know if it's recovery service, or maybe it is. I don't know.
I think the service gaps goes with the prevention, treatment, and recovery. So it's all three of those types of service gaps, right?
Mm-hmm. And then we'd come down here and take it out here and say by engaging, so that we capture that part that Chief Black was.
There you go.
Okay, how about that? Thumbs up, thumbs down on if we were to take that out?
I wonder if it would be more clear that it was prevention, treatment, and recovery if it was enhance. I was going to put service gaps in front of service gaps in, but then you're enhancing service gaps, so enhance would have to change. Never mind. Sorry. Trying to see how it was clear that it was for all three. Because I sort of agree with Brian, the way it reads right now to me is recovery service gaps, but not gaps in prevention and treatment.
Okay, I'm going to look hard at that. I hear what you're saying. If there's a better wording of it that I can come up with that doesn't lose the kernel of what we're trying to say here, I'll send it out to folks, and I'll show you both what was and what is, and ask folks to give their okay to it. Okay, I know we only have 9 minutes left. I'm going to go on now to we've been through all of that. This might be too big of a topic to take on in 9 minutes, but I know we did not have a strategy statement before, but I think it kind of speaks to what Dunya was saying and what I was trying to get from people as we filled out all of those questions on the survey is what is it we're actually doing at this table? And so I took again the themes from the themes that I saw around governance, and then created and these are the themes that are in more detail if you want to look hard at them. But this is a drafted strategy statement that I'd love for you guys to have a look at and see if you think it reflects something that could bridge us from what our mission statement says to what, when we get it completed, our actual governance, BHC table will be about. I'll be quiet and give you guys a chance to read that. And then I welcome your thoughts. Patrick?
Lori, thank you for your good work and also the participation of everybody on the Zoom meeting today. Just an editorial suggestion where we talk about informed by data and community feedback. I wonder if there's room for evidence-based in there someplace.
I'm sure there is. Other folks? By data, evidence-based.
Let's see, how would that read? Well,
think-
I was going to say data by definition is evidence-based, but not in this day and age. So, but evidence-based is a common term that's used, and we may not need it here, but it's appealing to me.
Let me hold that here in my little Lori parking lot. Dr. Carlbaum?
What about Patrick, informed by data, comma, best evidence and community feedback?
Sure.
Yeah, just to echo.
You can say no.
Oh, believe me, I will. I would best have informed by data, best. I'll switch it around. I'll persist here. I like just to be irritating. I'll say evidence-based.
Evidence-based
What now is the
strategies,
question?
evidence-based.
Practices. How about practices?
And I see Chief Black's hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what the doc said. I think just if we had only evidence-based, I can think of examples with the CARES unit. Often, Dania's going to laugh at me, where we can come to an observation that is not necessarily evidence, like the CARES unit's doing over 1,000 contacts a year. We can't say for certain that our 911 calls have gone down by that same number, that every single one of those correlates. Some of those people may have moved out of the area. Some of those people may have gotten services or maybe they just stopped calling 911. So
Right.
if we're just super specific on evidence-based, I think the doctor's little list gives us wiggle room.
How about relevant anecdotal or something like that? I realize that there are, as the chief has said, there are many things that don't have a evidence-based trail to them that play into all of this.
I've seen terms in some grant funding about like promising or emerging things like that might capture some of those things that we don't have yet a sample size big enough to call it evidence-based.
All of those variables lead me to want to leave it the way it was, just informed by data, and not have to qualify that, because if you do qualify it, you're weighting things, because evidence-based means something specific. And I see what you mean, David. It is overused in medicine, but really what it means is, intensive study on a strategy that beyond a doubt is proving that the mechanism is worthwhile and has the return that you expect based on iterative research to that point. I don't want to get trapped in a strategy statement. And also I know about grants that are out there. It's true. I think Brian said it. It's some are about evidence-based programming. Some are about promising practices. And I don't know that our strategy statement needs to get us hung up in that. I see your point though, Patrick. It's important to qualify that we want to use the most informed data we can to make decisions. And so I'd rather use a less tetchy term as evidence-based, because that means something very specific, and it could exclude others.
Okay.
I just want to jump on that and agree with Apple and Dr. Carl Bumley said, and evidence base is thrown out there a lot. And really, what does that look like, and what does that limit you to? When you're really thinking about what could be best practices or what could be innovative, and I don't want to focus on stuff that, because in my world, evidence based, you have to go to specific training, the specific things, but it doesn't mean it actually translate into the real world sometimes.
Well,
So-
and to Jim's point, in many places, I had this brilliant thought. What was it? I don't remember what I was going to say from 5 seconds ago, but
It's contagious.
yeah.
If we were to go with this statement as it is, and I know we're at 2:58 now, how do people feel about me sending this out to the voting
Yeah.
group as a whole? Thumbs up, thumbs down? And don't laugh, but I'm looking really hard at Dunya because I know she understands data so much more than I do, and maybe the implications of evidence-based versus not in this strategy statement.
Yeah, I was typing something because I feel like it's 2:58 and we're going to end in 2 minutes. I agree with everyone on the call, including Patrick, and I want to point out that we're saying that is informed by evidence-based practices, not that we are only doing EBPs and we're ignoring promising and emerging practices. I do think that maybe the term best practices would be the best middle ground here, but I have heard plenty of community ideas that are in no way make any sense whatsoever. It's just something that someone had a fever dream about. And so I would like to potentially draw some boundary conditions over some of the initiatives that we would take on. Wouldn't be that we just thought this was a good idea and there's absolutely no evidence or anything other than one person thinks it's an awesome idea. So that would be my.
How does putting in best practices feel or sit with folks? Patrick isn't enamored.
Yeah, he doesn't like it.
No, but I'll defer to the experts here. Best practices suggest some kind of hierarchy and kind of a forced choice situation, if you will. But I also hear what the chief and others are saying, that there are lots of things that happen. For example, the reduction in CARES calls, and who really knows without some follow-up what was going on with some of those folks who aren't calling anymore. Hopefully, they've been able to smooth out their life and not continue to have the need for the CARES calls. But it's tough to go back without extensive follow-up and find out what really happened with them.
Well, thank you everybody for such a robust conversation. I know folks have to jump off. I want to encourage you to have a close look at the voting models that I suggested, that I have attached here in the links, as well as governance models. And that is what we will take up closely in our next meeting on November 14th. And I may actually send out another survey that's specifically focused on the governance so that we can get some of the thinking done before we get here to the table, because we see how quickly the time goes once we're here. Thank you everybody for your time, for your thoughtful engagement.